The dark side of being an INFJ, what no one talks about. Most people believe they know what it means to be an INFJ, the empathy, the intuition, the rare, almost mystical way you seem to see into the emotional core of other people's lives, but the truth is that very few ever learn what sits behind your quiet eyes when the lights go off, when the mask drops, and when the world stops asking you to smile, to understand, to be strong, to be the one who listens, the one who feels, the one who carries, the one who just knows. Because beneath all of that, hidden under layers of insight and compassion and silent responsibility, there exists a place you rarely talk about, a place that takes shape in those moments when you wonder whether anyone has ever truly seen you, or if they're only seeing the reflection you carefully adjust to help them feel safe, understood, and less alone. Today, we're going to step into that hidden place, the dark side of being an INFJ. The side that is not dramatic, not poetic, not glamorous, but deeply human, profoundly emotional, and often misunderstood even by those who love you the most. 1. The mask of "I'm fine." INFJs learn early, sometimes painfully early, that emotions affect people. And because you can feel those shifts in others like temperature changes in a room, you become the one who adapts, the one who softens, the one who says, "It's okay, I've got this," even when you don't. You become the one who reads people faster than they can explain themselves, the one who anticipates needs before they are spoken, the one who smooths tension before anyone else even notices there is tension to smooth. And so, in 1,000 tiny interactions across a lifetime, you slowly build a mask, not because you are deceptive, but because the world begins to expect your calmness, your steadiness, your emotional availability. People start coming to you for their storms, and you start telling yourself that your own storms should stay quiet. But this mask, this quiet agreement you make with the world, becomes heavy. You smile when you're exhausted. You comfort when you are the one needing comfort. You hold space for others even when your own heart feels like it's losing oxygen. And eventually, you begin to wonder, if I didn't take care of everyone else, would they still want me around? 2. The loneliness no one suspects. There is a very particular loneliness that INFJs carry, one that does not come from being physically alone, but from being emotionally unseen. You can be surrounded by people who adore you, yet still feel like you're speaking a language no one else understands. Because how do you explain intuition that works faster than reason? How do you explain the way you absorb emotion like a sponge you never asked to be? How do you explain the constant process of analyzing, connecting, interpreting, and sensing, when most people only see the quiet expression on your face and assume you're simply calm? INFJs are not calm inside. You are processing. You are observing. You are feeling in layers. And the more you sense, the harder it becomes for others to meet you at the depth where you naturally exist. This loneliness is not about needing friends, you can have many. It's not about needing love, you can be deeply loved. It's about needing someone who sees behind your eyes. Someone who understands the swirl of intuition and empathy and foresight you live with every moment. It's about craving a connection where you don't have to translate yourself. 3. The burden of knowing too much. INFJs don't just feel deeply, they see deeply. You can read motives, energy shifts, unspoken anxieties, hidden hurt. Sometimes you wish you couldn't. Because when you're in a room and you instantly pick up on who feels left out, who's anxious, who's insecure, who's wearing their own mask, your heart automatically tries to balance the emotional temperature of everyone else. But the world rarely realizes when you feel out of balance. Your inner world becomes a storm hidden inside a still lake. This becomes the INFJ paradox. You are the type who notices everything, yet feels invisible. You understand others effortlessly, yet struggle to feel understood. You sense what people need, yet rarely receive what you need. And because you can predict outcomes, anticipate reactions, and intuit emotional consequences, you become hyper-responsible for feelings that are not yours. You start carrying burdens that were never meant to be on your shoulders. 4. The emotional exhaustion that feels like fading. The INFJ mind and heart are always running, always processing, always sensing. So you give, and you give, and you give, until something inside you begins to dim. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, like a candle that burns too steadily for too long. You don't collapse publicly. You don't explode. You don't demand attention. You simply fade. You withdraw into yourself. You stop sharing thoughts because they go too deep for most people. You stop asking for help because it feels like one more burden someone else would have to carry. You stop expecting to be understood. And instead you settle into that familiar inner world where everything makes sense. And where no one can disappoint you. On the outside, people think you're doing fine. Inside, you're running on emotional fumes. Not broken. Not defeated. Just tired in a way that reaches your soul. 5. The soft rage of being misunderstood. INFJs rarely express anger, but you do feel it, deeply, quietly, and often in ways you hesitate to admit. There is a specific kind of frustration that comes from being called too sensitive when you're simply aware. Being told you're overthinking when you're genuinely perceiving. Being misunderstood even after explaining yourself with all the clarity you can muster. Being taken for granted because you make understanding people look easy. You rarely show this frustration outwardly, but it builds in your chest like pressure beneath the ocean floor. And when INFJs finally reach their breaking point, they don't lash out, they shut down. Not as punishment, not out of spite, but because you've reached a level of emotional depletion where continuing to give feels impossible. This shutdown is one of the INFJ's darkest shadows, not dangerous, not dramatic, but deeply isolating. 6. The pain of pouring into the wrong people. INFJs love intensely, but not in ways that demand spotlight or grand displays. Your love is quiet, steady, loyal, intuitive, and deeply personal. You give people pieces of your inner world slowly, carefully, honestly. And when you love someone, platonically or romantically, you don't just love who they are, you love who they could be. But this idealism can become painful, because you often see potential where others see convenience. You see depth where others see opportunity. You see the whole person, even the parts they haven't grown into yet. And the dark side is this. Sometimes you give your heart to people who don't know how to hold it, not because they're bad people, but because they don't understand the depth of what you're offering. They take without realizing how much you're giving. They accept your understanding without giving any in return. And slowly, quietly, painfully, you begin to feel used, even if the person never meant to hurt you. INFJs rarely get betrayed. You more often get exhausted. 7. The moral weight you can't put down. INFJs carry a strong inner compass, a sense of right and wrong that feels woven into your bones. You don't follow rules out of obligation. You follow principles out of conviction. But this moral intensity can become heavy. You hold yourself to standards no one else even thinks about. You blame yourself for things that were never your responsibility. You feel guilty for resting, for saying no, for choosing yourself. And sometimes, you resent how deeply you care, yet you can't turn it off. Because caring is not something you do. It is something you are. 8. The INFJ disappear. Every INFJ has a point, quiet, invisible, rarely spoken, when you disappear from a situation, a friendship, or a relationship. Not dramatically, not angrily, just quietly. People often misunderstand this disappearance. They think you ghosted. They think you stopped caring. They think you're cold. They don't realize that INFJs leave only after giving more chances than anyone should. After trying to communicate in gentle ways. After analyzing the situation from every possible angle. INFJs don't leave suddenly. You leave silently. Because you've already left emotionally months before. It is not coldness. It is self-preservation. 9. The dark night of the INFJ soul. When INFJs hit their limit, it doesn't look like rebellion. It looks like retreat. You go inward, deep into your thoughts. Deep into your intuition, deep into your imagination. This is not a dangerous place, just a heavy one. It's the INFJ version of resetting, healing, breathing again. But it feels dark. It feels lonely. It feels like walking through a fog of your own thoughts with no map and no footsteps to follow. Yet this darkness is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that you're processing, growing, rebuilding the emotional foundation inside you. You are not falling apart. You are reassembling yourself. 10. The unseen strength of the INFJ. What people rarely realize is this. INFJs are not fragile. You are not weak. You are not breakable glass. You are quiet, but not passive. You are sensitive, but not fragile. You are deep feeling, but not overwhelmed by emotion. You are moved by it. Your darkness, the exhaustion, the loneliness, the overwhelm, is simply the shadow side of a heart that feels the world with an intensity most people will never experience. You carry empathy not as a burden, but as a purpose. You love not as a transaction, but as a calling. You see the world not as it is, but as it could be. And yes, this comes with shadows. But it also comes with a strength that is quiet, steady, and profound. INFJs survive what most people never even notice. You endure storms inside yourself while calming storms inside others. And that is not weakness. That is extraordinary. So if you're listening to this, and any part of it feels like home, even the uncomfortable parts, know this. You are not alone in your depth. You are not strange for caring so much. You are not broken for feeling so deeply. You are not too much. You are simply tuned to a frequency most people never learn to hear. Your darkness does not make you flawed. It makes you real. It makes you human. It makes you INFJ. And the world is better because you're in it.